Welcome to Everything is Dead, the show where we challenge the myths of B2B and uncover how go-to-market professionals are thriving in channels everyone says are dead. Today, we're diving into everything paid ads with Justin Rowe, CEO at Impactable. Justin, welcome to the show today, mate.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
No, excited to have you on. I think I've followed a lot of your content on LinkedIn, and so really excited to dive into this topic with you. I always start the episode with a very outrageous statement. Paid ads are dead. How do you react to that statement, mate, on your side?
I would say, as much as I'm hearing that all of these different channels and tactics and platforms are dead, I would say everything in context and it depends, but paid ads is definitely not dead. In my mind, there has been an evolution in using paid ads to amplify what's working organically versus just either organic or paid ads. I am all about, for 2025, I am all about this ecosystem approach. So I almost don't think that any tactic or channel is dead. It's how you use it. It's what you pair it with. And obviously you have to have the right foundations in place.
Yeah, and actually, like this resonates with me because I actually think the first time I saw your content was like through a boosted post, which is a form of paid ads, which shows that it works fundamentally. Talk me through, because you mentioned the word evolution, and a lot of these episodes actually start off with a similar type of conversation, right? There's a lot of things changing in go to market. Could you perhaps walk the audience through what as the evolution of paid ads and how they've changed over the last kind of, let's say, 2 to 3 years?
Yeah. And in my mind, so one of the terms that always just makes me feel like we're in the old days of paid ads is when people refer to it as media buying, almost like it's these things on the shelf that you can buy and put out there. And it doesn't really matter that it's like personal or dripping with subject matter expert or has a strategy. It's like these units I can buy and ship out and I'll expect something back. And then I think one of the big shifts that's happened over the last couple of years, this demand generation kind of idea discussion, and you can debate whether it's just brand building in a new light. In my mind, part of that evolution is, yes, it's brand building, but it's through subject matter expertise and highlighting founder and like thought leaders within the organization. And with video being such a huge asset now, like that is different than branding from 5 years ago or 10 years ago. There's a different way to do it in a different light. And now, and it used to be that then organic was very separate from paid. You have organic social, which mostly up until I think 3 or 4 years ago, felt like it was just this checklist item that, okay, we have content coming from our page. Cool. Like it's crappy content that no one would read. And our intern who knows nothing about our business is just pushing that out from research. Okay, but cool, we got that. And then we have paid ads, which, yeah, sure, we'll invest in audiences, we'll push to premium channels, and it's completely disconnected. And then, yeah, through demand gen evolution, like the type of content organically has improved to the point where we're pushing actually valuable content, showing subject matter expertise that brings inbound, and then paid was looked as this still like evil, cold, ugly thing. But in my mind, yeah, the new evolution from that is attaching to demand generation kind of ideas in that organic motion and thought leadership, and then using paid ads as an extension of that to guarantee distribution of these organic assets. And that coming together is a beautiful thing. And so both aspects have evolved in that sense and then combined and melded a lot more in the last year or so in my mind.
Yeah, I love it. And I mean, I can speak from firsthand experience as well. Like we made the shift, I'd say it must be going back a year and a half ago when I originally came on as SendSpark. Fundamentally as well, and I'd love to get your opinion on this. Social works if your audience is on social, right? Is on certain channels. And so obviously we sell a product to salespeople. And if I, from my marketing brain, look at the channels that salespeople use all the time, LinkedIn is definitely, I would say, number one, to be totally honest with you. And so we made a conscious effort 2 years ago to start really doubling down on thought leadership content on LinkedIn, right? And our whole company does that now. Bethany, our CEO, is phenomenal at it. And then to your point, what we've started to do is supplement that with boosting posts, so thought leadership ads on LinkedIn. I'd love to get your opinion. And again, I think from your seat, you probably come across a lot of clients. You're going in and diagnosing maybe what's wrong and what they should try. What do you go through from a process standpoint to actually work out that strategy? Is social actually a channel for you? And then does the amplification piece actually work for their business, let's say?
And I guess so. It always depends on what stage the company is in. So, in a company that already has some traction, has some mixture of organic and paid, it's a lot easier to diagnose. For example, yeah. So, if I look at your analogy of what you guys have done, not knowing like the other stuff in place, so doubling down on organic and then boosting or posting with LinkedIn. Typically, I would start uncovering like the other stuff. Okay, do we have? Probably we have some form of SEO going. It's the long-term play. We probably have some paid search, maybe it's not a massive part of it. But then I start looking at it as like an ecosystem and saying, okay, what do we currently have today? The organic motion, what's bringing the most traffic to the website or to our key pages? And what could this benefit having more from? What I find is sometimes if we put too much emphasis on the organic, and I'm all about the organic and the demand gen, we almost discount some of the traditional paid channels, which I absolutely believe are still super fundamental. So SEO, get that started soon. You're not going to see the results right away, but I absolutely believe that should be underlying. And then I do believe paid search is still going to be really foundational. Now, paid search, it's coming under a lot of flack because the cost per clicks are getting more and more expensive. The cost per conversion are getting more and more expensive. But the beautiful thing about paid search is that it's people in market searching for exactly what you do. Now, when you go organic social or even paid social on LinkedIn, as amazing as that targeting is, you're not targeting people in market actively looking for your solution. You're targeting people who are likely to need your solution, but you have absolutely no idea where they're at in their journey. So introducing more paid search traffic into your ecosystem can shorten the sales cycle of everything that's going on, if that's what you need. If you already have a good foundation and then you have organic, what you might need is to step over and say, okay, in order to get more efficiency out of my paid search, I want to retarget and qualify my website traffic with LinkedIn retargeting. And then I want to push my top 20 organic posts and make sure that qualified website visitors from all sources see these 15, 20 assets, because I think it'll move the needle on trust. So seeing in some companies, like they don't have enough top of the funnel. So SEO, paid listing, organic social, all these things to get more in their ecosystem is their top priority. And then once they get that, then it's okay, I have people who are aware of me. How do I move them? And yes, you can't move them further down the funnel just by force, but you can create the necessary assets to help them come to that conclusion. And so then it's okay, I need middle of the funnel focus. I need LinkedIn retargeting, multi-channel retargeting. I need to grow my organic communities where we can nurture and build trust over time. And then if that's really robust and the ROI equation still isn't quite there, then maybe then focusing on the bottom of the funnel. Okay, within the middle of the funnel, I have all these intent signals of people that should be close to ready to buy. What can I do to give them the gentle nudge at the right time? And yeah, really peeling it back, seeing what your current ecosystem looks like, evaluating what channels might be best suited for that layer of the funnel, and then taking that temperature frequently and adjusting, because it's all about channel adjustments, budget adjustments, and those things can shift from month to month. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I love it. I actually think we're fairly aligned on how we think about marketing in general. You use the term ecosystem, which I love as a phrase. I've always just said, hey, watering holes. I use the term watering holes, like where are your buyers consuming content fundamentally? And then how do you make your brand, your company so pervasive in those watering holes where it's like, shit, I keep seeing SendSpark everywhere I go. And I'm also looking for video. I should check these guys out. So I love the phrase ecosystem that you've used. I want to double tap on something you said, because I actually think paid ads are something paid, like I'm talking Google and Facebook and wherever else you're paying for ads. I do think they still have a bad perception, or certainly in the last year got a bad perception. You're saying, hey, absolutely, it still works. Maybe we could just focus on that component, and maybe you could give me a rundown on like why you think they're still absolutely necessary for businesses.
Yeah, and I'll hit on both sides. I think I've come into why they're getting such a bad rep today, and then why I think they're still valid and how you should use them. So for example, like paid search, I absolutely agree. It's gotten way more competitive. The cost per click is up there. And so in my mind, one of the best things I can do to justify that cost is ensure that I'm getting the most out of the traffic on the back end, because in a silo, paid search can be really hard. It used to be like paid search was like the easiest ROI channel.
Money in, money out, right? It
Yeah.
was
And it's
like,
just an equation. Like as
yeah.
long as the demand, the search volume is there, you could just like tap into that infinitely. Now, I think we're in such a digital age that almost on any of these SaaS platforms, all the other, like even tiny one-person shops are savvy enough to set up a Google Ads account and start competing with you. So just on that alone, like people are giving up and be like, oh, paid search is not viable anymore. Now, my approach, one simple technique change is I get in-market prospects from paid search. I think that is absolutely viable traffic. Now, I agree. In and of itself, that's hard to get an ROI. But what if you can ensure that those that are qualified from that in-market, you stay in front of them for the next 90 days? Now you're not just competing on that initial click, initial impression, because that's the other thing. Like from paid search, it's you get one click, you get the one, they show up to your website, and then they're going to visit 3 other websites. It's a very transactional, like phase of it is very
It's like
competitive.
when you buy like a new pair of trainers, right? It's, I'm going to go to a few different review sites. I'm going to go here. Yeah, types.
So you also have to have like a kick-ass website or someone who's turning like custom landing pages for each search term group. And that was the old way. And it's really hard to do. Now imagine like from my point of view, I can actually be a little lazy on my website and on my landing pages because I'm putting less emphasis on my first impression and more emphasis on what I can do 90 days after that. So I get them to my website. Yes, I'm willing to pay higher cost per click than maybe my competitors because I am way more confident that I'm going to be able to convert that traffic better than them on the back end because I'm going to qualify and retarget them on LinkedIn. And then I'm going to come with a trust building kind of process. The content I'm going to put in front of them with LinkedIn retargeting isn't just, hey, buy my crap, meet with my sales team. It's here's subject matter expert interviews. Here's like my team humanizing. Here's a how-to tutorial of doing exactly what you want to pay us to do. So you can understand, that we are the experts and it's more complicated than you thought. That's going to move the needle. And then I'll actually get an ROI out of paid search where my competitors might be dropping off. And I feel like there's so many combinations like that for multiple. LinkedIn by itself is super expensive. In a silo, it is really hard to get an ROI because you are getting, even as targeted as you can get, you're putting ads in front of cold ads in front of ice cold prospects who have shown no interest in your product. You have no idea if they are looking. All you know is that they're qualified and they look like people who might have a need. That's a really long sales cycle. You have to build the awareness, problem solution aware, build the trust, and wait for the timing to be right because you don't have those in-market signals. So in and of itself, LinkedIn, absolutely super expensive. But paid search coming in, LinkedIn retargeting, SEO hitting, organic search hitting, and then cold LinkedIn adding a steady stream of qualified candidates to the top of the funnel that you have time to convert over time. That's a beautiful mix. So yeah, and those are some of the nuances that I think like in a silo almost, and this is probably like the whole series, this is dead. In a silo, almost everything is dead. I agree. It's the combination that makes it still alive.
And you mentioned something interesting, and I wonder how you think through this as somebody that is like fundamentally trying to blanket their attention. So there's tools on the market now, RB2B, warmly, loads of them that de-anonymize website traffic. So actually now what I'm able to see, and there's varying degrees of accuracy a lot of the time, but you're able to pull a pretty decent list of here are people that are visiting my website. How do you see that type of tooling actually fitting into the approach that you just mentioned?
So one of the things that we did earlier, and now it's 2025, I was going to say earlier this year, is we did 2 things. We actually launched our own website visitor identification tool. It's not like big or anything. We're not marketing right now because we see the value in this. So many times, like we send traffic to the website, but then yes, we can retarget it. But yeah, it would be nice to know who that is and what you can do. What I would do with that is a couple of things. If you're, most popular one on LinkedIn is RB2B. And it's crazy, like I follow his post, like watching how many competitors jumped in the market. And then he said the biggest question that all of his clients have is, okay, what do we do with the data? And that's the
exactly.
Because everyone, I think they assume that, okay, I'm going to see all these amazing prospects that are visiting. But then, what are you going to manually reach out to them? So I think the very next thing is you need a system to qualify and do something with them. So the next thing I'm seeing is there's a lot of connections to the 2 plays I would say is you need to qualify and then either do email and LinkedIn outreach. So LinkedIn outreach was something my original company was founded on. We did automated LinkedIn outreach we had 200 plus clients that we would do LinkedIn lead generation from, and used to be able to send 100 connection requests a day. Now you can only send 100 a week. So the play with LinkedIn, I believe it's much better as a nurturing play. So if they're already in your ecosystem, warm prospects, either company page visitors, website visitors that fit your ICP, they know who you are and you can send a warm connection request to them. And then a simple introduction, letting them know, positioning yourself as an expert resource should they have a need. I think that's a really good play. So LinkedIn and email after you identify the website visitors, and I also just think like really evaluating the quality of the people. And if you can match it back to the source, that's huge in your targeting and in your efforts. But yeah, those are the main things I would do with that data.
Yeah, I love it. And I think you hit the nail on the head, to be honest with you. It's the biggest issue facing those types of tools is exactly that, the payoff, which is, and this is the same with any SaaS tool, right? You're signing up for a reason. Typically it's revenue related. And so if you aren't able to see, oh, we've got all this data, but we've closed 0 leads, you're gonna churn almost immediately because payoff. And so I love what you said there around the outreach component. Would you play around with ads with that audience as well? Would that be potentially like when you are doing your boosted posts or however you're approaching some paid stuff, would that also be like an audience that you plug in and then start to boost to as well?
Yeah. And so LinkedIn does this natively, but the other platforms would need some help. So the one superpower that I latched onto with LinkedIn ads is that LinkedIn their insight tag can see all of your traffic essentially, and they're constantly trying to match it back to LinkedIn users. And then they allow you to layer on qualifying filters. So for almost anything else, you need a process to take your website visitors, qualify it, and then either move that audience to email, LinkedIn outreach, or to retargeting on Meta and whatever. Because you can set up like Facebook or programmatic retargeting of 30 and 90-day website visitors. But one of the big problems with that is it's so over diluted, especially if you have a healthy company with really strong like SEO. They have such a hodgepodge of like website traffic that just targeting 90-day visitors is almost like worthless because it's so diluted.
Yeah.
But so to your point, if you could take your website visitors, you can put them through a qualifying process and then be uploading those audiences to your retargeting on like programmatic and Meta, and then have some kind of trigger to do email and LinkedIn. I think that would be a great play. But that's a little harder to pull off. I think you'd have to get good at some like Clay, or that's what everyone's using.
We're big. Yeah, we're massive Clay components users. Again, like Clay comes up in I feel like almost every one of these interviews, and it's taken a while for us to get good at it, I would say. And that's the fundamental blocker for, I think, a lot of people having success with Clay is actually it's fairly complex for the average person. We obviously have a varied audience for this show, Justin, obviously like more mature companies, but then some earlier stage founders. And so you brought up a point earlier, which was like, hey, one person shops will set up Google and obviously compete against you from a paid standpoint. Is there like a maturity level of company where paid should happen, or is it your opinion actually like every stage of company should experiment to some degree with paid primarily?
So in my thought process, and if I had to start over from scratch, I would absolutely start with organic. I would hit one platform really deep, depending on who I'm targeting, and probably be LinkedIn again. I would start SEO as soon as possible, knowing that it's going to take a long time to heat up. And then I would say, I don't know what the threshold is, even if you're doing I would say somewhere between you get up to maybe $50,000 MRR or somewhere in there. Like I would start dabbling, even I guess 20, 30,000 MRR. I would start dabbling with paid search. Like I got started, and this is hard because to have an agency manage it, you already feel like you need to spend 3 or 5K minimum spend plus their fee. So it's so massive. Find a freelancer, find some way to start. Like I started with $500 a month Google ad budget, and it took me 7 months of slowly walking that up to be confident that I'm getting some kind of consistent ROI. And I know that's a hard path for like normal companies who don't want to figure it out themselves, but it was so expensive to try to test that. So I do see that barrier, like 5K spend minimum plus a $1,500 or $2,000 management fee. Yeah, I guess I need to be 100K MRR to be testing these channels, but find more efficient ways to do it. I think you should be testing early, small tests if possible. Get a freelancer or is someone internal it's worthwhile to get that data, because it's more about the data. Like I would say, you have to have a certain level of spend to get to jumpstart it and get consistent ROI. But the data and learnings you get from even dabbling with $1,000 a month in some of these channels is really eye-opening and can really help fuel like your future efforts.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, and I think I totally agree with the point that you made, which was like, it's typically not just the ad budget. Like for most startup founders, they don't know ads. And so it's actually, you probably should get somebody that knows what they're doing, because otherwise your experiments aren't really experiments. You're just chucking hundreds of dollars into ads and then not seeing any results and then discounting it as a channel fundamentally.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, I love it. I think like one thing that I'd love to ask you, you've touched on this a little bit, but mistakes. I love seeing like common mistakes. And I just mentioned one, right? It's like trying it once, never trying it again. What are some common mistakes that you're seeing, either businesses that come to you or just people, making in general when it comes to ads?
Some of the biggest things I see is, and it's different with different companies, but I see the individual like leaders or companies sometimes being one of the biggest like roadblocks into success. And it's because they put like, I want you to launch a LinkedIn campaign, but I need it to go to this really ugly siloed landing page so we can track it. And I need you to use only lead gen form submissions will count. So I need you to go heavy on those. And it's leading a strategy, like a marketing strategy based on these crazy constraints. And then you're judged on that versus like, how can we best go to market and get revenue for ourselves? And then secondarily to that, how can we best track that? Should be the conversation. So I think like how people approach attribution can absolutely be make or break. Because if you're living and dying by HubSpot attribution alone, you're going to be running lead gens on every platform, and you're going to be running like these ugly campaigns because that's what HubSpot will tell you is doing the best. And so I think that mindset is really hard depending on your attribution. And then I think like creative license, like I think also like the bureaucracy and red tape around every single letter adjustment, like image has to be vetted through 5 people to the point where everything is just like boring corporate crap. And the agency doesn't want to try to innovate anything because getting something even slightly different approved is just too hard. So they give up because your organization has too many rules. So I really think looking inward at like how you look at attribution and giving whatever agency you decide to work with or internal some creative license within reason, like I think is really important to the success of a lot of marketing.
Yeah. I think what you just said right at the end is absolutely true. Like the importance of marketing. And you even mentioned like original content earlier and stuff like that. I do still think that is fundamentally one of the biggest issues with legacy marketing, which is one, still very corporate, still doing the same things. And then to your point, if you're gonna pay for an agency, they know what they're doing. And so trust them to actually do it, right? Fundamentally, you'll pay them a fee. We're getting right to the end of the episode here, mate. And so I'd love just to open it up to you. Tell people about what you do and how you can help people that are maybe listening to this that are still like, damn, I wish Justin could come in and change our paid ad strategy.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Justin Rowe and CEO of Impactable. We're a LinkedIn ads agency that serves B2B and have, I would say, affordable options on the market. And the big thing that I would say that if you have tried LinkedIn ads in the past, but you wrote it off, 9 times out of 10, I would say it's because there was wrong configurations. Even the most savvy marketers, like I've met really great paid search marketers, really great meta marketers. When they cross over to LinkedIn, they bring their assumptions with it. And almost every marketer goes deep on a couple of things and then goes wide on another. And LinkedIn's always like this one that they try to add on. And it's its own depth and ocean. I've come to respect each channel as its own, like I know enough to be dangerous about paid search, but I respect those experts. LinkedIn deserves its own focus. And so I would challenge you, if you have a broad spectrum marketing agency that has you covered for LinkedIn ads or an internal team that's added that on for you. If it's not me, there's some other really great LinkedIn ads experts that I could recommend, but get it checked out, get an outside opinion, get a couple of them. I can almost guarantee you're leaving money on the table if you have either of those options, internal or a broad marketing agency. So yeah, impactable.com. We do offer paid search and meta. We actually acquired a LinkedIn lead generation agency last year. We acquired a CRO agency and we've really expanded our service, but LinkedIn ads is still our core go-to just because in the B2B world, just like you said, that's your focus. When it comes to targeting sales teams, CMOs, CEOs, CFOs, CIOs, this is probably one of the best platforms. And even like the ability, again, of retargeting frameworks, optimizing and getting more out of your other ecosystems, like not thinking of, LinkedIn, we tried that. If you have Google search already, if you have SEO, organic, you have other paid media already in place, but you're not using LinkedIn, at the very least, you should consider LinkedIn retargeting. qualify and convert the traffic you're already paying for, there's almost no way that you don't start out with a decent ROI in the first 90 days if you're not relying on that in a silo. So yeah, if that makes sense, reach out. And we also have a really good YouTube channel, Impactable YouTube channel, 400 plus videos. They're very educational.
I've watched them and I can double tap on that. And Justin posted some good content on LinkedIn. Justin, like I said, thanks so much for coming on. Loads of great knowledge shared. And thanks everybody for tuning in today. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.